Hey everybody, how you doing? So I've just been reading what Tim Davis has been saying on X. You know, Tim Davis is the ex Royal Air Force pilot. He was kind of coming out and defending the police, especially the police officer that was tackling the guy with the samurai sword that hacked that young boy to death. The police officer actually came out and was actually attacking the guy with his baton and his pepper spray. And Tim Davis saying this was brave. And I agree, it is brave, but it's very, very rare among our police officers nowadays to actually do that. Like I was pointing out, the other day we had 8 police officers turn up to a musician's house and arrest him and his wife because they sent emails to a bishop highlighting their disgust at how a paedophile clergyman was still being allowed to practice the faith around families and children. And that led to this particular person, this musician, being arrested and held for 12 hours in a police station. So 8 officers can turn up for that, and yet only 2 officers can turn up to a lunatic with a samurai sword running around the streets, hacking at people. And the issue I've got is, because Tim Davis brought this up as well. Normally I agree with Tim Davis. On this, he's a bit off the mark on this one, in my opinion. He said police officers don't make the law. They can only follow it. Well, I would say that police officers have a moral obligation to refuse to carry out illegal or immoral orders that aren't in the spirit of the law, or where laws are being misused to harass and cause harm to people of this country. I would say that officers have a moral obligation not to carry out those orders. And in some cases, if those orders are illegal, I mean, we can bring up the case with Tommy Robinson, where those police officers misused the Terrorism Act to be able to seize his phone. They deliberately misused that law. That wasn't in the spirit of the law and what it was meant to actually do. So in that instance, those officers should have turned around to their superiors and said, we're not carrying out those orders because it's not moral, it's not in the spirit in which this law was brought into effect and what it was actually meant to be used for. That's what officers should do. And in the case of illegal orders, they should basically say, we're not carrying out these illegal orders, and if you insist we carry out these illegal orders, we will put it in the record that we refuse to carry out these orders, or we were doing it under duress. That's what police officers should be doing, but don't do. Instead, they keep their heads down because they want to keep their pensions, and so they follow illegal and immoral orders by the hierarchy in the police. And I just want to say this to police officers, because this is what oppressive regimes and people who enforce repressive regimes never seem to realise. They never think that it's going to end, but it always does. Regimes change and others come into power. Point in case for me was, I spent the best part of a few months going around and arresting Iraqi police officers who abused their power during Saddam Hussein's reign. I spent the best part of a few months doing that out in Iraq, going in, kicking their doors in, dragging them out, arresting them, doing biometrics on them, fingerprinting them, DNA testing them, taking their retinal scans, all that kind of stuff, and then putting them on a database so we could match up and see if any of these people had actually been involved in any atrocities, any illegal activities, or anything like that. That's something that police officers in this country should really take into consideration. And, eventually, this will catch up with you. This will end. And people will want their pound of flesh. And you will be thrown under the bus. Even though the people who gave you the orders will probably get away scot-free, they will use you as scapegoats. You will be the people they hold up and hold to account for everything that happened. You will not escape the law when the regime changes. Don't think for a second that you will. You could find yourself on the wrong side of the law and you yourself having your door kicked in by the authorities and you being dragged out in the middle of the night and being on the other side of that interview table. Just something for you to think about. I'm pretty sure that the Iraqi police never thought it would happen to them. They thought that Saddam Hussein's reign of terror would go on forever. It didn't. It ended. And as a result, he died, and everyone below him was arrested. And, you know, that's what happened. In fact, we had to arrest some Iraqi police officers for their own safety because the locals found out where they lived and would probably just hang them from the nearest lamppost. That's my experience with that sort of thing. So, you know, in my opinion, police officers have an obligation to refuse illegal orders. Saying I was just following orders is no excuse. It really isn't. This is Vindicator, sign off.